I know you probably can't wait to start programming, but the strategy pattern is important, and that's why you're here. The good thing is, you already know what the strategy pattern is, you just haven't been calling it by that name. Let me show you what I mean. In this channel, we like to keep things relevant and simple. If you've ever played any games, you are already halfway to understanding the strategy pattern. Let's think about an RPG, maybe something like Elden Ring or Skyrim. You have your character and you press the attack button. What happens next? Well, it depends on what you have equipped, right? If you have a sword, you do a quick slash. If you have a giant hammer, you hit a heavy smash. And if you have a magic staff, you cast a spell like a fireball. The different behavior based on the weapon you have is the strategy pattern. Is it really that simple? Yes, but there's more to it. Let's keep going so you know how it actually works in programming. You can think of any game that has a variety of weapons as a prime example for the strategy pattern. The strategy pattern is a way of creating different options to achieve a common goal. It's not just about creating these options, but it's about how you organize it in your code. All the logic for how one of your options deals with the task is kept together with the option, and not in an if statement. And as a result, the rest of the code becomes simpler and well organized. The key thing is that this pattern makes it easy to maintain code that needs a lot of conditional behavior. If you already know about if statements, then you know that they can become hard to navigate after a certain length. But with the strategy pattern, it's really easy. So now you know what the strategy pattern is in theory, but you need to know how it works in code. Let's use another example you've definitely used before. A food delivery app. When you're playing a new game and you just can't be bothered to cook that day, you open up your food delivery app of choice and order something that will definitely be cold by the time you get it, but is worth you not having to stop playing. When you paid in the app, there's a good chance you saw options for card payment, PayPal, Apple Pay, and maybe even Klarna. What the checkout screen wants to do is really to perform one action, process payment. It would be good if it doesn't get involved in the messy details of how to charge a credit card or how to redirect to PayPal to receive the payment, so we don't accidentally break anything that's already working. And that's why it uses the strategy pattern. That way, all the details on how to process the payment is tied to the code for the credit card or for PayPal, and so on. When you pay with your card, the app just runs the card way of paying at checkout. And when you select your Apple or Google Wallet, it just runs the wallet way of paying. If the app wants to add a pay with Bitcoin later, they just create a new class and write how the payment processing works. It's a really clean way of coding, and it will save you from feeling stuck if you ever start writing an if statement that gets hard to manage. Which leads us to something important. How do you know when to use the strategy pattern? The answer is not to replace every if statement with the strategy pattern. That's just too much. Instead, you can look for certain signs to know when to use it. If you know all the strategies you need beforehand, that's a sign. You can try to prepare for the unknown in real life, but here we need to know what our options are if we're going to use this pattern. For the payment app, you know you need certain payment methods like card, PayPal, Apple Pay, and so on. For the RPG game, you know you'll have sword, hammer, and staff, and whatever else. When you spot this grouping before you even start, that's the perfect time to use the strategy pattern. If you are repeating similar steps, but each one is performing things a little bit different based on a choice, like the player's attack changing based on the weapon, or the payment example, that's another sign. Think about the food delivery app's checkout screen. It does a lot of work that's the same every time, but the part that changes is the payment processing, and each one handles things slightly differently. Or you find yourself writing long if, else, or switch statements to change a behavior. This is a big red flag. If you're new to programming, you might write an if statement like this. But do you see the problem though? Every time you want to add a new weapon, you have to come back and change this one giant function. It gets super complex, it's easy to break, and it's just messy. And last, if you know you need to add new strategies in the future, the strategy pattern is definitely good for keeping your code clean in the long term. So if none of the previous points convince you to use this pattern, then think about if you're starting a long-term or collaborative project that needs clean and organized code. If it does, chances are you'll be using the strategy pattern somewhere in your code. So that's the strategy pattern. It's just a clean way to bundle up different behaviors into their own objects. You've been interacting with it all your life and you didn't even know it. Now you can revisit your old code and start replacing some of those if statements with a strategy pattern.